Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is an abbreviated version of the infamous Nevin and Fred podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'd be the Nevin and Fred. And with me, of course, is my good buddy and longtime podcasting partner, Mr. Fred Reish. Hey, Fred, how you doing?
Hey, Nevin, thank you. And I understand today we're talking about scary things for Halloween.
We are, after all, Halloween is just around the corner. So that's the time when things that go bump in the night or stumble across your plan document or just things that make you wake up, screaming in the night. It's all in good fun. But yes, this week we thought with Halloween coming up, we would talk about things that should scare plan sponsors. And I say should scare plan sponsors because honestly, some of the things on our list, either they're not aware of or they're not as concerned about it as, let's say, I might think that they should be. And that's why we're going to talk about them today. So the bad news is, folks, we may give you some news here today that may make it hard for you to sleep tonight. But hopefully we're also going to give you some clues as to how to stay on top of this kind of stuff and keep it from being a problem. So we are, as I said, we're going to do a short list here today. So I'm going to bump down the list real quickly, and then we're going to circle back and we're going to hit highlights on each one, why it's kind of an issue, and then encourage you all to check out the full-fledged, unabbreviated version of the Nevin and Fred podcast. And going forward, we hope to do kind of like, as you all have asked, we'll do video and audio only. So, me and Fred, we're just trying to help. So first off, here's the list. Number one, things that people should be scared about: target date fund glide paths, the degree or lack thereof of personalization in a managed account, cybersecurity, participants that leave their accounts behind, a general ignorance of the fees that are being paid by the plan, and then last but certainly not least, the personal liability that ERISA plan fiduciaries have for their actions and the things that go wrong in the plan. So that's the list. It's 6 things. Bing, 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 bing. All right. I'm going to circle back. I'm going to take target date fund glide paths first. The essence here is that when those were launched, the target date actually meant something. It was a date upon which the glide path was to scale down and get you towards a more conservative approach with, I think, the embedded assumption is that people would take that and then roll it into something else, whether it's an IRA or an annuity or something like that. But the industry has moved to the concept of a through target date approach, which means that your asset allocation at the target date is probably not as conservative as you might have thought it was if you're a participant. So, plan fiduciaries, do you know what your glide path looks like, your plan's glide path looks like at the designated target date? Boom. Fred, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, the fiduciary question is if 90%, 100% of your participants, when they terminate employment, take their accounts with them out of the plan, why do you have a target date fund glide path that assumes that their money is still going to be there during retirement? In other words, what's the reality of your plan and how are you making decisions around that reality, or are you ignoring it, which is never a good idea from a fiduciary perspective?
Yes, ignorance of the law and the realities is not a good thing.
No.
So we'll go with that. So next, personalization and managed accounts. Fred, can we do this? Do we have to talk to people or not? Or can we actually achieve a better result in this one data element, target date focused target date?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious appeal is that, hey, this is going to be individualized for that particular participants. Two 50-year-olds may have very different circumstances. Why should they be in the same target date fund? The downside, though, the scary part is the issue of, are the fees reasonable for the investment management and other services being given to the participant? If it's just like off the shelf, not particularly individualized, there's an argument that fees aren't justified because you can get some of that stuff for free. The plaintiff's claims in the lawsuits are that the managed accounts are nothing more than target date funds with an additional fee stacked on top of them. So you want to avoid that. You want hyper personalization, and you want to provide other services like helping people determine if they're accumulating enough money to retire with financial security. So that's it for that.
Got it. All right. Well, we used hyper, so we'll go with a rhymey word that is cyber security. Um, and Fred, as we talked about in the expanded podcast kind of thing, the Labor Department has actually handed out some pretty voluminous tips, basically things that a planned fiduciary should be asking. Again, my issue with this always is they told us the questions, they didn't tell us what the answers are supposed to be, but at least there's a roadmap. At least we got some specific questions. And you've had some experience to suggest that the Labor Department, in fact, is looking for people to have asked and have answers to those questions, right?
Yeah, and to pick up on what you said, plan sponsors and fiduciaries should be hyper about cyber. Um, it is a national investigatory priority for the Department of Labor. Every DOL investigation now will have questions on that. Nevin mentioned the three best practices or tips that the DOL has put out on cybersecurity. Google DOL guidance on cybersecurity, get those three tips, and have the plan committees meet and discuss them.
Yep, absolutely. Well, the other thing that came up, this was something that was on your list, Fred, and is the danger, the things to scare you and keep you awake at night, was participants that actually leave their accounts behind with that prior employer. Why in the world, Fred? I mean, I've actually seen surveys that say, people like it when people leave their accounts behind. And let's face it, when it gets up on trying to sort of terminate your employment and you're going to work for somebody else, the easiest thing in the world to do if you've got a balance more than $7,000 is just to leave it there. You don't have to fill out any forms. You don't have to worry about rolling it over. You don't have to worry about if your new plan allows that kind of information or not. Why in the world would this be scary?
It is scary because it is another national investigatory priority of the Department of Labor, and they will assert a breach of fiduciary duty by the employer, the officers and managers on the committee, if they haven't kept in touch with the participants. Why? Well, like there's disclosures that have to be given out every year. By law, that's a fiduciary obligation to give out those disclosures. Are they getting to the participants? Even worse, when participants are old enough, these so-called missing participants, are you making required minimum distributions? That is a plan qualification issue. If you engage in a prudent process to keep in touch with the participants, you can satisfy both the DOL's requirements and the IRS's requirements for making sure that the fiduciaries fulfill their jobs properly in running the plan.
Amen. Yeah, the RMD thing is something that is real easy to lose touch over. Now, I would also say that the electronic disclosure regulations that we got several years back probably make it easier to keep up with people who aren't on the company email anymore. But nonetheless, I always also remind people that the people that brought the big suit in Enron were all ex-employees. They weren't current employees. And so, yeah, that's another good one. Okay, the other next to last thing was just a general ignorance of fees. And again, we talked about the fact that this just seems like, geez, really, do we have to say this again? Do people really have to be aware of this? But the reality is the plan fiduciaries are expected to know that the fees and services rendered to the plan are not only reasonable, but they are in the best interest of the plan participants and their beneficiaries. You cannot possibly know if the fee is reasonable or not if you don't even know what the fee is, right?
Absolutely. Number one, calculate total fees, direct and indirect, for example, revenue sharing. Number two, benchmark those against a credible benchmarking service. Number three, if they're higher than a reasonable range of costs and fees as revealed by the benchmarking service, negotiate lower fees, get cheaper share classes, do whatever you got to do.
Absolutely. All right. And then last, but certainly not least, the reality is that planned fiduciaries are personally liable for these things if they're not doing the right things to the plan, if there are injuries to the plan, if there's a suit. You see this all the time in the litigation that's filed. They sue the company, they sue the committee, and then they sue what they call John Does 1 through 30, which includes people who would have been involved with making those decisions in the plan. That would be you, plan sponsors, and it might also be you, plan fiduciary advisor kind of thing. So it is important to remember that you've got that personal liability. It's also important to remember that it is not covered by things like the fiduciary bond that applies to the ERISA plans generally. It also is generally not covered by the type of corporate officer insurance type policies that are typical in most larger organizations. But you're going to need you're going to want and need something else. And that's basically insurance to make sure that you have some protection and some coverage against this personal liability. If, good, God forbid, something goes wrong and you end up finding yourself in litigation.
Nevin, absolutely right. When you aren't sued, fiduciary insurance seems like an unnecessary cost. When you are sued, it's a gift from heaven. It protects your house, it protects your savings. Yeah, folks, why run that kind of risk? I mean, why invite the potential for trouble? There's a great line from Dirty Harry where I think he said, how
Feel
many
lucky,
how many
punk?
shots are you feel lucky, punk? Well, that you don't know. I mean, for let's say there's a 1 chance in 100 of getting sued, but think about that. That means for 99 people there's a 0 chance, and for one poor son of a gun, there's a 100% chance. And don't be that one and not have insurance.
Amen to that. Okay, well, that's a quick hit update. Our 6 things that should scare plan sponsors, at least if you don't do anything about it. And again, in the full length podcast, we do talk about some things beyond what we just said here that you actually can do and can take advantage of. The Labor Department has given us a roadmap on several of these different things. And with regard to things like participants that you may have lost touch with, there are some databases and things that you can actually use to find those people. So again, check out the episode resources and check out the unabridged version of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to let us know what you think. You like this or not? Anyway, have a great, happy Halloween, and don't be scared. Fred, take care, man.
Take care, Nevin.
All right. Once again, my friend, you are a laggard.